Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey there, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Katie Lemieux, and my sidekick, Kate, is not with me today, and that is because we have a very special guest all the way from, I think of when I think of Jo Muirhead, who lives in Australia, I think of time travel. Literally, she's on, we're on Tuesday and she's on Wednesday. She just finished breakfast. I just finished dinner. It's weird. So it sometimes takes some mastering to get the time schedule down, and she's laughing because it can be a little bit difficult. And then when you don't use time zone clocks and you miss each other, and we tried to talk one time and I was at the chiropractor and it was just a big mess. But I think we've got that on track right now. So Kate's not with us. I'm doing this solo today, but we're going to be talking about a really awesome topic. And I'm very excited about it. And so we are going to be talking about how to create, grow, and build a network that helps you stay full in private practice. And what's really interesting about this topic is I actually finished Jo's 12-week course called 5 Favorite People, which was really helpful to me. And I actually decided to do the course not only for my own private practice, but my spouse's business, and really understanding effective networking. And it was really helpful. So you'll hear a little bit of the obstacles, the challenges that I had, and how Jo helped me and those in the group overcome that. So if you're a first-time listener, we are welcoming you, rolling out the red carpet. Thank you for being part of our family now. You are a Startup Nation superhero. And for that, we have a special gift for you. We have our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your dream practice. And of course, you can always find us on Facebook. Come hang out with us. We interact with you and the group. So just look for the Private Practice Startup. Ask to be part of our group. And you'll have a community of now over 4,000 people, which is really amazing. So last week on the podcast, we had a local. We had Marla Berger come in and talk about her horse as her co-therapist. So Marla actually does equine-assisted psychotherapy and shared a lot about the experience of that. You can hear Jo's laughing on their side. How fun is it to have a horse as your co-therapist? Exactly. So she talked about equine-assisted psychotherapy, her experience with that, but a little bit on how to become an equine-assisted psychotherapist. So you want to listen to that podcast if you haven't already. And then for our sponsors, so you guys know if you've been listening to our podcast for a while now, we absolutely love Brighter Vision. Brighter Vision is a website company that is created and designed for therapists. So they help you create your website, high converting website to convert those clients. They'll build your site, set up your hosting, and take care of all of the images and SEO for $59 a month. It's definitely a steal of a deal. I know that when I got in a private practice, and I've redone my website 4 times, you're paying people hundreds, thousands of dollars to do your website. So they actually want to give you guys your first month free. So you can actually head over to our website, privatepracticestartup.com, and head over to the resources tab, and you'll see Brighter Vision there. We'll also add a link to our show notes. So without further ado, I'm so excited. Jo Muirhead, everybody. She's been holding in her laugh.
Yes. Now, I know about equine-assisted therapy. I've helped somebody here in Australia build a really great practice in a part of the country that wasn't, but I've never thought to refer to the horse as the co-therapist. And I was just picturing this person, and I know him well enough to know that he would get matching hats or vests or something and really introduce it. So I'm going to go and share that with him, because I think that's just great. And it was totally unexpected. So didn't expect you to say that. So good morning to the listeners of Startup Nation. I feel like I'm a part of this community. I really love this. I love this community. I want to be able to help and encourage and inspire people, but also answer questions when I've got something useful to useful to add. And just let people know that, you're not alone, and that this is just a fabulous community. So if you're not a part of it, then get a part of it. It's clearly the message.
Well, thank you.
Start with that.
And actually, Joe, you were on a podcast a few podcasts ago, and you actually did a solo with Kate, and you talked about how to write, speak, and something else to your ideal client, or so they'll listen. I was actually trying to look it up as we're talking, but I didn't get there in time. But yes,
that's okay. But that was all about how we actually talk to our clients or prospective clients in a way that they can listen to us. Yes. So therapists or clinicians of any discipline. So I work with OTs and speech pathologists and dietitians and chiropractors, and we're all extremely good at clinical speak. We feel safe with it. We spent a lot of time learning it. Mm-hmm. Our prospective clients don't have a clue. And they really don't care. So they really don't. No. And they just want to know that we can help them, that we can make them feel safe. And we need to get better at communicating that message to them in a way that they can understand it. So, if you think that your website copy or your marketing spiel needs to talk about the ABCs of DBT and ACT, just please stop it. Because you're turning people off. So that's the summary of the previous podcast.
Yeah, and so we'll put a link of that into the show notes page so you guys can actually listen to that. But we're going to be talking about effective networking. And so, truth be told, it was interesting. So Joe had reached out to us to just kind of spread the word. And I was like, oh my gosh, let's do a Facebook Live about it. And then I was the one that got captivated and purchased your program. Yes. Because what I realized is when I came into private practice, the majority of my private practice was built online. So I've done a lot of ads, SEO, and things like that. And it's been effective. And what I realized is I didn't think I know. I'm a great connector. I do a lot for a lot of people. People call me for answers to legal questions, ethics, like I'm your go-to gal. But I wasn't effectively networking, and I got turned off because I was exhausted. And I just felt like I was doing everything for everybody, and it wasn't like being reciprocated because I didn't know how to network effectively. So that's kind of what brought me to your course.
And I love that description, because I too struggled with the volume of networking that people think that we have to do. So we wear enough hats, and the work we do is hard, to then have to go to network business meetings and try and explain to people who we are. And a lot of the time we're still battling with the fact that people think that we're important and needed and necessary. So then you feel like you're having to help convince people that what we do is necessary and maybe we could help them. And like, who wants to do that when you've been seeing clients back to back all day? Well, I didn't. I was tired.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember even signing up for like 6 months of the Chamber of Commerce, right? And I was like, okay, it's local. I'm in the local community. People get to know me. But what I realized is that like in the networking that I was in, it wasn't very specific towards my own ideal client. And it's okay if you're like, oh, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm a real estate agent. And hi, I'm John, I'm a CPA. And you're like, hey, Katie, I'm a therapist. And no one wants to talk to you out loud. They wait till you like leave the door and then beeline for you and try to corner you privately and be like, I have to, my friend, or my sister, is having a really crappy marriage. Can you help her? And it's like, that was never fun.
No, never, ever fun. And I think you've touched on a really good point there. People think that these business networking events are going to be a transaction. I turn up, I give you a business card, you're going to get clients through the door. And it never ever works like that. If it does, you've probably got a very high volume, low cost practice, which is great. We need some of those. But the transaction mentality is the thing that I really teach against. We need to be building relationships with people, and they take time and effort. So you don't want to be building relationships with hundreds of people, which is why my program is called 5 Favorite People, because once you develop this key network of 5, I have learned in the 9 years that I've been doing this, and I've grown a multi-clinician practice, if that's the only thing I do, then my practice is full. I do believe these days, when I started, I didn't have a website. That was 9 years ago. You can't get away with that now. You do need a website. So I'm just putting, thank you, Brighter Vision. And for $59 a month, like, get over yourself and just get a website built.
For real.
Mm-hmm. And the reason is, if you go to if you develop a relationship or a connection with someone, they're going to want to go and check you out, make sure you're legit. And if you don't have a website, they don't think you're legit. Simple. It's just the way the world is these days. You're not going to change it. So it's better that you know it so that you can actually make an informed decision about how you want to approach it. If you really, really, really can't afford a website, then use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least have a landing page.
Landing page. Yep. And LinkedIn, not a Facebook profile, because two different things. So if you're professionally networking, you want to go to LinkedIn. If you want to hang out with those people at the beach in your bikini, go to Facebook. Sometimes you really need to draw a very, very, very clear picture of what the different platforms are like.
That's so funny. I love it. So you've built the majority of your business solely almost on effective networking, yes? Yeah. So share with us kind of some of like the results that you gained through this.
Oh, okay. So what I realized I have done is when I needed more clients, I had this very small pool of people that I enjoyed working with that had access to the clients that I enjoyed working with and who wanted to collaborate with me. So I found myself being able to pick up the phone, yes, remember the phone, not to send them a text or an email, but actually talk to them and go, hey, guess what? I've got space on my caseload. Is there anybody you would like some help with? Now, invariably, every time I do that, and I do that with my team, we get new clients.
That's awesome.
So that takes time. That's not something. Now, remember, I've been doing this for 9 years. But in the beginning, when I went back into my own practice, I'd actually been out of the work for over 9 months because this was never supposed to be the thing that I did forever. It was just going to be the thing I did until I worked out what I was going to do.
Which was what?
I have no idea because this is awesome. I had burned out. I had been running a really big national business, and it was a model of service delivery that didn't suit me, and it was a model of management that didn't suit me, and I stayed in that job for 2 years, which would have been 18 months too long. So I took myself out of the paid workforce for 9 months, tried to learn how to trade the US stock market, sucked at that. And then I needed money. So I went back to what I knew, which is rehabilitation consulting. So I'm like and so then I went back to some of the businesses that I'd known in the past that I knew I had some shared values with, which was about quality service provision. And I said to them, who are the clients that you don't know what to do with? Who are the tough, stuck clients that you don't know what to do with? So that was my first niche.
Nice. I know
that I don't do that anymore.
I know that one thing that I really took away from, the course was you had said who has the most of your ideal client, and really concerned. So I'm a couples therapist. And so I have a lot of divorce lawyer, attorney, even friends. I have a lot of attorney friends. But most that was kind of like the well is dry because usually by the time they get to the lawyer's office, they've already made a decision. Now there's really some great attorneys that say, no, go try couples therapy. But I didn't find I was getting many referrals. What was interesting though, is I guess, just like therapists have Facebook groups, attorneys do too. And because so many attorneys knew me, there was a period of 2 weeks where I got 3 calls from attorneys being referred by other attorneys for their own personal problems to see me. And I was like, well, that's cool. But I had never really found who shared my ideal client. I didn't really know where to look. And I was exhausted.
Yeah. So there's 2 things in that. One is the 5 favorite people may not be the ones that refer to you. But if those 5 people know 10 people that have access to your ideal client or people that you're happy to work with, and you've now got 5 people talking to 10 people each, do the math, they're effectively marketing you. And that's what this strategy is about you learning how to speak about yourself in a way and talk to others in a way that allows them then to go and be comfortable and confident to say, you need Katie. Just let me give you Katie's number. Katie will help you do this and this and this and this. Actually, you need Katie. You don't talk to anyone else. You need Katie. And that's the power of how I've built this, is that I have people in my industry who will go, I've heard about you from so-and-so. So-and-so told me that I needed to speak to you. So back in 2014-15, one of my OTs and we created a fatigue management program. I have never launched it. I barely market it, yet I'm getting inquiries about it all the time.
That's awesome.
From word of mouth. Now, it's a very cool program. We could help a heck of a lot more people. There's just no space in my brain to do a launch for it at the moment. So
I feel you. I understand.
Yeah, launch it, and I will admit, online launch or launching of anything, I do struggle with because it takes a lot of effort, and to do it thoroughly and properly. So again, I found being able to just really target 5 people. Now, you might need to speak to 20 people before you find 5. But being able to find 5 people that I can go to and encourage and nurture relationships with me didn't exhaust me because they're people I kind of wanted to hang out with. It was relationship building, so I wasn't expecting a transaction. So it wasn't, here's a new email, here's a cookie, here's a cup of coffee, please send me referrals. If that's what your expectation is, stop it. You're cheapening yourself and you're cheapening the value of relationship. Nobody goes into a marriage going, here, honey, I've made you dinner, please make the bed.
Well, maybe by the time they get to me, yes.
I had to be really careful going, how did we manage that this morning? But it was okay. But I'm really trying to help people understand that we've got such a poor transactional idea in our heads because we're used to just handing over money and getting something in return, or handing over a thing and get something in return. And a lot of our economy is built like that, but it's not how the therapeutic economy is built. Right. Therapeutic economy is built on trust. People will not hand over their hard-earned cash or their time until they trust you.
Right.
Going to therapy is frightening. It's confronting. It's emotionally, it makes you feel all emotional in ways you don't want to feel emotional. It's going to take you, yeah, there you go. There's a word I've avoided. You're going to be giving your money, you're going to be giving your time, and seriously, you don't really know what the outcome is going to be. Right. Like, am I going to change so much at the end of this that nobody likes me anymore? That is one of the unspoken fears that everyone is going to have.
Yeah.
Or what happens if you tell me that it's all my fault? Which is kind of interesting because I'm assuming most people, when they are in an antagonistic relation, want you to tell them that it's all the other person's fault. But
of course.
Yeah. So if we can start to calm ourselves down and realize that we actually have these rapport building, relationship building skills inside of us, and that it's easy because we've done it for so long, we can then actually find this level of communication and networking and relationship building so less threatening. I think one of the things about this group that has been awesome is there have been so many people just willing to give it a go and practice, play with it, go and have conversations with people that they wouldn't have had conversations with before just to see what would happen. People have received new clients from it. People have worked out, oh, I do not want to work with this client group, which has got to be an empowering place to be. And then we've had the opportunity as a group to actually expand where else we could go. So rather than just having this really narrow view, like you were talking about divorce attorneys, we had a massive conversation about faith-based communities in churches that opened up the conversation. Like, how do you go and have those conversations in churches? How do you do that with leaders of faith-based organizations, and realizing that the people we thought we needed to speak to weren't the decision makers? Right. So being able to be more intentional, feeling prepared in your conversation, knowing that you're there to serve and to give information and to help somebody make a decision or help somebody make a buying decision, just takes all the pressure off. You're not walking around throwing out business cards saying, come buy my stuff.
Yeah, I never liked that at networking. I even went to a training, or recently actually with a 5-day training, where we're making connections with people and whatever. And it's like a few people are like, oh, did I give you my business card? And I'm like thinking to myself, like, I don't want your business card. If you want to say hi to me, connect with me on Facebook. I'm not like, I just spent some good time with you and got to know you on a personal level. And what? Ugh. Yeah. So if you're handing out business cards or pushing business cards, stop. One of the things that I really love that you talk about is just being able to you be the person to ask for. So here's the thing, and then I always say with therapists, guys, you are amazing marketers. Sometimes you just don't know that because you exist in the therapy room and you think that's therapy, but the rapport building, the open-ended questions, the curiosity about people, that's marketing. And so I love how you talk about is just asking people, what is it that they do? Who's an ideal client for them? And just really, how can I serve you? How can I be of help to you? What do you need? And then people inadvertently ask you that back. And I like how you say is like, don't make, especially the first connection, it's not a transaction. Don't expect to give a business card or receive one unless it's, unless it happens. Someone might have something right then and there that I have a client actually that just called. Fantastic. But when you kind of like gave that permission, just like have fun, like identify people you like and want to hang out with, like all of a sudden it just became more enjoyable to me. I also found like, in the couples therapy world, so I specialize in affair recovery, and I was like, I incorporated my colleague who's in my office, and I'm like, hey, you want to do this with me? And I was like, wait, we need to seek out some trauma therapists because we need to refer to trauma therapists because people experience PTSD when they've been through an affair. And so we had this beautiful group, like it was like this win-win-win situation, right? So we had like 4 trauma therapists there. And we actually went to the farm of Marla that I was talking about because she was actually one of my coachees and she wanted to be able to get more therapists to the farm to see what she does. I was like, hey, what do you want to do at the farm? That's a really cool place. So it was a win for her. People got exposed to what she does. The trauma therapist got to meet the couples therapist. And interestingly, most trauma therapists don't want to work with couples. And we don't really want to spend our time working with trauma, nor am I an expert at that. So I need you. And it was just this cool conversation. It was casual. It was just great. It was fun. And like, that's what networking should be.
Absolutely. And that's just such a beautiful example. We need to work out how to draw that picture. I've got pictures forming in my mind, but that's kind of the ripple effect that you see, that we see happening. Is to stop trying to be this thing called a marketer and just be yourself.
Right.
Have a natural conversation with somebody, which might be, one of my favorite questions is, what's the thing that's stressing you out the most at the moment? Everybody's stressed. What is the thing that's stressing you out at the moment? And people go, are you going to try and read my mind? It's like, yes, I am. I'm diagnosing you right now. And then they laugh and they go, oh, that's funny. Actually, what's really stressing me out at the moment is I just don't have enough time in my day. Oh, wow. Okay. That sounds really uncomfortable and awkward. Have you got any support around that? And do you know the next natural step for you? And you don't have to have the answers. It's just about engaging somebody in that conversation. Nobody likes to be told what to do.
No.
So just having the courage to engage somebody in that conversation. Where I think this falls down for health professionals is that we're not very good at talking about what we do. We're not very good at saying, hey, I help people go from A to B. I help people return to work following injury, illness, and trauma, and I'm very, very good at what I do. The more complex your medical issues are, the more senior you are in your career, the more challenged you feel by your health condition, then I am the right person to help you. Now, I can say that because that is the truth. But similarly to you, don't come to me with affair recovery because I'll be like, ooh, I'm going to... don't do it again. So getting yourself to a place where you can feel confident in how you express how you help. So it's not like I'm Joe and I'm the best rehab counselor in the world. It's like I'm Joe and I help people to return to work following injury, illness, and trauma. Some of the things that we do are. So anybody can do that. An occupational therapist can do that. A dietitian can do that. A massage therapist can do it. A real estate agent can do it. Mm-hmm. People do not care about your methodology. They want to know the simplicity of when clients come and see me, they are crap, awful, and horrible. We do some stuff together and they walk away feeling empowered, transformed, and in control of their life.
Great. Right. And we talk a lot about the benefits and the emotion and results, right? And so start talking in those aspects. And you guys do help people create benefits, results, like become unstuck, stress-free, balanced in your life. Whatever that is that you help clients do, or whatever they're telling you, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You helped me do X. If they're saying X a lot, you just tell that to other people. I know that it took me a really long time to get super simple. And even today, like I constantly, when I'm writing copy or things like that, I'm like, no, don't need that word. Don't need that word. And like, if it's one sentence, I got it.
Nice.
It's super clear. But yeah.
And I think the important thing is you've got to do the work around this. This isn't something that just naturally comes to you. No. You've got to do the work. You've got to spend some time thinking, and you need to practice. You didn't become a therapist in a day. So please give yourself permission to practice this and to learn the skills and to learn that sometimes you're not going to get it right all the time. Oh, I have not so right conversations. But that's okay. You just go, wow, that didn't go so well.
Yeah, I got those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so cool. I'd like to just share a little bit about like your course and stuff like that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things, and Joe's saying that is, so whether you're kind of coming into the course, and I highly recommend if you really want to learn how to effectively network market, is jump on her next course, whenever that will be. I know there's a few times during the year that she does that, but also be prepared to take action. This is not a sit back and take notes, which is a good thing. But you have an idea of getting clear on what you do, who your ideal client is. She'll help you kind of craft that. And then a lot of it is she kind of gives you the structure and asks you to get in action. And that's just really important, because you're not going to learn without, stepping out and doing it. And then that's where the feedback comes in. And, I'm, as you talked about the faith-based community, I had forgot about that. That was an early on conversation. And I just stepped into action. I was like, you know what? I know a colleague who is actually a mental health professional, but his dad's a pastor. Hey, do you mind having a conversation with me? And we just had a conversation. And it was very interesting because although he's a mental health professional and he's in his dad's church and going to seminary, he still gets pushed back too. So it's just like, oh, that's interesting. I don't have another appointment scheduled with him, or we have to, but I was like, hey, can we just kind of keep the door open to explore this conversation further when it arises? Great. How can I be helpful to you? And it was just cool to have that conversation with him. And then obviously there was more like pivotal things, right? Like with the trauma therapist. And then, one of the big things that you said that was just like a duh moment. I call them dumb moments, not aha, because it's like it's sitting there in front of your face the whole time, and you're like, I knew that, but I didn't see it. Was like really working with people, especially in the consulting area, right? Private practice building and consulting, who has a lot of your ideal client. And we've already been forming relationships, but it gave me permission to have a lot more fun in our relationships. So we sent some of our people some really fun gifts, and like without them knowing, and that was just a lot of fun. So it's been really helpful. And I guess what really resonates with me the most is people that you really like, people you want to have a relationship with. And I think for me, before your course, it was like, oh God, this person asking to meet me for coffee. What do they want? Like, I don't want to meet for coffee. Don't you have a million things to do? Right. And it's okay to like realize like, hey, they don't have my ideal client. I can be of service to them. I'll offer them a 15-minute call. But also then saying, yeah, I do like to eat Greek food, and who's the person that I want to hang out with and eat Greek food and talk business with? Like, let's do that. So that was just really helpful.
And it's really interesting, because one of the things that we spend some time on is how do you say no to the people you don't want to spend time with? And we spend a lot of time in the course actually working out the language that each person wants to use. So one of the reasons why it goes for 12 weeks is not because there's 12 weeks of content. It's so you actually implement, and then we get together and I actually coach you through what happened and what you said and what felt comfortable. None of this is ever going to feel comfortable to start with, but are there some things you just should not be doing? So there's no need to go bang your head against a brick wall just because you think that's what you should do. So I think that the 12 weeks, the reason why I put it together this way was to give people very practical, almost in the moment feedback, and so that they can go try things in a way that's safe. So like you said, don't turn up to the course if you're not prepared to take some action and not prepared to do stuff. You'll get great content, but the content's going to be useless to you unless you go implement. So I'm a bit of an implementer, and I get frustrated with people who just go and spend a heap of money on training and then don't do anything with it. I don't like that. Sorry.
I hear you. One of the things I really liked at the end was the objections, like really working through objections, right? It's great to connect and meet with people, but if you're not, and you guys might not like that, I'm going to use this word, but like closing people, like using a sales term, I know that doesn't feel good, but helping them see the value in what you do so much that you can help get them in the door. And after you did the objections training, one of my old friends and colleagues that I used to work with, like he really wanted to do our marketing course, and I worked with him for a half an hour, and he gave me all three: money, time, and trust. And I and I just really got in his world and like committed to him like, let me help you see the value for you, because I know it's possible. And sometimes, like you're saying, when people come into therapy, they're scared. When couples or one part of a couple comes to therapy, that's a scary time, because you know what?
Yes.
I might leave therapy and I might want to divorce you, and my life is about to turn upside down. Right. And so knowing how to be able to handle those things that are unsaid was really helpful. And, you know, I'm not sure that anyone is so comfortable talking about money unless they've practiced. But it was helpful to talk about that, the money objection, and that kind of comes up as well. And so that was really valuable too. And I know that I shared on the call, like it was just fun, like, and I did it last night with my spouse. It was just fun. Like when people give objections to their own things, like, oh, I want to work out, but I don't have time. It's like, oh, well, let me practice what I've learned. Oh,
yes.
You know? And so like, I'm not doing a sale or transaction, but it's just me practicing, and it just really helps you with your business.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that the objections, that was new for this particular
Awesome.
cohort, because that's the beauty of running something so small, and also having a very strong coaching component, is that if there is a common theme that keeps coming up, well, then that's obviously what we need to learn. And that was fun for me. I'd never taught that before, and people got so much value out of it. And then I was just like, okay, I need to help more people learn more of this.
How about it was so funny that people got so much value out of it, and the recording didn't work, that you had to
Man, that was the day the internet and I had a divorce. I was so unhappy. Anyway, redone it. So that's cool, which means I had to practice again. Yeah. And I think the other thing that I said about objection handling is, if you've ever had to get a small child to bed when they didn't want to go to bed, then you know how to handle objections.
Yes.
So that was useful for some of the people in the call, going, oh yeah, it's not so scary, because there's all these sales trainers out there teaching us how to close sales, and we should be sales and sales and sales and sales and sales. And I've spent time with sales trainers. I've spent a lot of money on sales trainers, and there's stuff I don't like the way they present it. So I've gone and worked out how to do this in a way that feels ethical and professional, and still has the level of compassion that I want to be, without being this hard-nosed, sometimes feeling a bit two-faced, sleazy, manipulative salesperson. I don't want that. So I won't ever teach that.
Yeah. In the training I just went to, part of it was sales and marketing. And there was two things that really stuck out for me, and it just kind of gave me the permission to let go. He said, you will never sell someone on something they don't want to buy. And I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. And so even if I feel like I'm pushing a little bit, if they don't want to buy it, they're not going to buy it. And that has nothing to do with me. It's just whatever's going on over there. But just really getting into people's world and helping them see the value. And, Russell Brunson, we went to Funnel Hackers Live in March. He had said, if you have something of value, it's your duty to sell. People are buying stuff all the time. Let's see, I have an Arctic right here. I have a cell phone. I have these clothes. Like, we're all buying stuff. Phone.
Books.
and what you guys offer as therapists is really transformational work. It's priceless.
Yes, it is. Please hear that. We give people their lives back. What price can you put on that?
Chills.
It shouldn't be $60 a session. Just letting you know. So definitely please respect what it is that we give our clients, and let people know it's okay. Yeah. They need to know.
So we can talk a lot, and obviously you see the energy that Jo has, and this is how she is morning, noon, and night. So what I'm going to say is, if you are in a place where you're ready to learn about effective networking, or you've been struggling with it, I would definitely recommend taking Jo's course to help you with that, for sure. And actually, Jo has a really awesome giveaway for you guys, and it's actually a special Startup Nation superhero giveaway.
It really is. So what I thought would be useful is, you will get a 5-part email series, and there'll be video training to help you prepare for networking conversations. So it's not the whole 5 favorite people course, because that's just not going to happen in 5 emails, I can assure you. But it is about how to start preparing your own language, how to get comfortable with it, and giving you some pointers on how to start talking about yourself so that you've got some practice. And yeah, you can start to feel a little bit more confident about where you are and what you do. So that's a Startup Nation exclusive for this podcast. That's a lot of fun. So by the time this goes to air, we'll be ready to go. I will need an email address from you. So you will be asked to give me an email address if you want to access the course. So there's no other way to do it. Yeah. And then, we can stay in touch. And I haven't decided whether I'll be running the program in October this year. It depends. If I can get 20 people who say, Jo, I have to do this by the end of the year, well, then, of course, I'm going to run it. But I usually run it in the beginning of the year, so people have got a whole year to keep implementing and build their momentum.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure with this podcast and video and whoever else will post it, this will hopefully help people kind of make a decision to do that. It's definitely worth your while, your time and investment. And, I know I'm a serial entrepreneurist. Is that the right word? But
it is now.
Entrepreneurist. But you're going to need networking wherever you go,
Yes.
and it's really cost effective, right? And you build those really good relationships. So we're going to get that link from Jo, and it's going to be on our show notes page. So you guys will want to check out the show notes there. But we really just overall hope you enjoyed this conversation. Yes. And I know that even as Jo continues to talk, I still get knowledge and information, which is amazing. And so we hope you join us next week. And next week, we're going to be talking to Chorus from TheraChat. Chorus is actually from Greece, and he created TheraChat, which is an app to help your clients be accountable and get their homework done. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited to talk to him about this and how it's working. We've already had a preliminary conversation, so we're going to be talking a lot about that next time. So Startup Nation, wow, this was I enjoyed this podcast. It was interesting. Before I came on the podcast, I was tired, but Jo totally energized me. So we hope you guys had a great time today, and don't forget to check out the podcast next week. Find us on Facebook, and if you really love these podcasts, it's really helpful for us, and not really only us, but really other people who are looking for these quality podcasts to subscribe, rate, and review. So you could just go to iTunes. You can review us there. If you want to find us on Google, just search the Private Practice Startup and do a Google review, or even on Facebook. It's so much more important to hear, your comments, your feedback. And when we get those little feedbacks in our email, those little personal ones, it just really lightens our heart. It's great. We struggled for about a year or a year and a half, really kind of getting stuff off the ground. So it always just helps to hear how we're inspiring you guys. So with that being said, next time I will be back with my co-host, hanging out with you guys. And we wanted to say thank you so much for allowing us to inspire you from Startup to Mastery. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.